Hey everyone, welcome Matt here, doing a quick board game review of the Institute for the Magical Arts with the recent release of the Harry Potter newest book, The Cursed Child, and the newest movie, the newest board game coming out next month in September 2016. I thought it was fitting to do a review of this beloved two-player game by Dr. Steve Finn. This game plays in about 30 minutes. It's about area collection and dice rolling and using your cards to mitigate the dice rolls and use special powers against your opponent. And thematically, it represents Dr. Phineas, the headmaster of this wizarding school, this magical school, who mysteriously disappeared. And so two senior wizards are vying over power, saying, I should be headmaster, no, I should be headmaster. And so this game represents you two players duking it out over it. And that's basically the premise of the game. Let's take a look at it, and then at the end I'll come back and tell you what I think. Now, the game sets up fairly simple. We have numbers 1 through 6 of our cards right here in the middle. You're always going to start with the portal right here, and then you have the Ethereal Realm card up here. Then we're randomly going to have cards generated for numbers 1 through 5. Every person will have 4 dice, and then our take and cast stone cards. You'll start out the game with 5 stones, which I'll put right here. And then we have 3 reroll dice, these black dice right here, 2 charm cubes, which are each worth a victory point, and our starting card, which there are 3 different ones you'll shuffle and pick through, and they always have 1 victory point. So you'll usually start the game always with 3. I say usually always because, you can choose to vary the rules as you wish. In a normal game, you're playing to 20 points. In a longer game, you can choose to play however many you want to. Now, the basic way the game is broken up is into 5 phases, which are shown on this handy dandy little card right here. In the first phase, we assign action cards to dice. So the first thing we're going to do every turn, we're going to take our 4 dice, and then we're going to roll them. And I see that this time I got 3 1s and a 5. Now, I can choose to do something here. I can either, if I have a card that allows me to do something on phase 1, which I don't because this one says phase 4, then I could have used that ability by paying 1 stone, casting it at my opponent, so to speak, sending it to the bank, and using the power to mitigate the dice in some way. In this case, because I drew 3 1s, and I don't want 3 1s, let's just pretend I don't, I'm going to use 1 reroll die, and I can either reroll all 4 dice, or reroll just 1. In this case, I'm going to decide to reroll all 4, so reroll like that. And I still roll 2 1s again, but now I got a 3 and a 5. So let's just, though, for the sake of showing you gameplay, switch one of these to 6 so I can show you what the portal does. So now we're going to secretly assign one of our 6 different cards to each of the numbers here, which will then go to the card corresponding to that number. So let's just say that I do this. I'm assigning, and this is all in secret. I'll be putting these down. My opponent won't see what I'm doing. Let's just say I do something like this. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is, at the beginning of phase 2, you're going to take power stones. In this case, I am taking 5 from the bank, which this is a 3 power stone next to the 1. So I'll take one of those, and then I'll take 2 more power stones. After that, I will move on to cast my power stones, and so I will cast 1 here on that card. I will cast 1 onto 3, and then I will cast 2 onto the portal right here. Then we'll move on to the next phase, at which time I use the portal. Now, the way the portal works is you can either take all of your stones from the portal and place them on one of the 5 cards here, or you can place one of the stones onto the Ethereal Realm. And this is powerful because for every stone, 1, 2, 3, or 4, that you have on here, when you decide to turn those in, at the end of that use the portal phase, you can get the corresponding benefits. For 1 stone, you get 1 charm cube. For 2, you get 2 charm cubes and 3 reroll die cubes. For 3, you get 4 charm cubes. And for 4, you get 4 charm cubes and the top card from the draw pile, which is really powerful. You can only have 1 person in the Ethereal Realm at the same time, so you're not going to have a blue and a red here at the same time. So if, for example, the blue chose to put one here during this turn and I didn't, he could choose to then send his blue guy to the to the ethereal realm, in which case we would both be nullified and no one would have one there. So there's always a push your luck element to this, of how much reward are you going to get out of the ethereal realm. So there's that. Or I can do, as I said, put everything on one card, which may help you grab a card in one turn. So that's the portal. Then we're going to move on to trigger permanent powers. Some cards are going to have this little red symbol right here with a circle around it, and representing that it's a card that can be used every turn. You'll pay 1 stone, and then you can use that power's effect, which in this case is roll 2 die and remove 1 opponent power stone, if any, from either die location. So if I roll 2 and I rolled a 5 and a 4, if my opponent had a power stone on either of these 2 cards right here next to the 5 and the 4, then I could remove 1 of those. If they didn't, then sadly enough, my Ring of Influence did not influence anything that turn. There's different permanent powers that can be triggered, and they'll always be triggered in numbers starting with 1 up to as high as they go. I think it's like 9, maybe it's more than that, I'm not sure. But you'll trigger those permanent powers, and this is really your time to move stones around and make things happen, because at the end of this, we're going to award Institute cards. Once you have the requirement for a card, which in this case is 5 stones, but 1 more than my opponent. So if I have 5 stones here, let's just imagine we played a few turns and my opponent didn't put any here. I've got a 3 and I've got 2 1s. I've got 5. Now I can take this card. And once this card becomes mine, the card can do a couple of different things. Some of them, you'll note here, have this hand symbol, which represents a one-time use. You can save this card for one time and use it during, in this case, phase 2, but you don't use it right now. Now, some cards, as soon as you get them, they have this green little symbol right now, you use them immediately. An example of this would be the character cards, like this guy on number 1, Caliban the Conjurer. Scores many victory points as character cards you now have. So if this is the first character card I get, he's going to go over here, representing that I've used him, and he'll get me 1 victory point onto my track, which would then go up to 4 points. The potion would get me 3, so that would move me up to 7. And so you're going to be fighting and dueling over these things. The cards have really interesting abilities, and after the cards are awarded, whatever stones were put on that card is going to go to the general supply, and then you're going to move the cards down like so. Get those out the way. And the portal's going to slide down too, and then you're going to draw 2 new cards out the top. So we have a shield there, and then we have the Master Wand. And if the portal ever gets to number 1, it's gonna automatically renew back up to number 6. So the portal never goes out of play. It's always moving around. You always have the portal coming into play. You're gonna play until you get the most points over your opponent, and that is the game.